Hello, English learners, and welcome. I'm your host, Paul. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you. Excited to chat about English learning today.
Today, we're embarking on, well, a journey to tackle a challenge that resonates with so many of you. I'm talking about the pervasive fear of speaking English. You know that moment someone asks you a question and suddenly your mind just locks up? That wave of nervousness washes over you and the words just vanish. It's a completely normal experience, but yeah, really frustrating.
Indeed, it's a common hurdle for language learners everywhere, really. Our mission in this deep dive is to unearth some practical, actionable strategies. 11 paths to confident fluency. We want to give you the keys, to speak English not just effectively, but truly without that anxiety holding you back. This isn't just about learning words, it's about unlocking your voice.
Okay, so let's dive straight in then, because it directly challenges one of the biggest psychological barriers, the relentless pursuit of perfection. The book urges us to focus on communication, not perfection. Simple enough to say but. For someone truly paralyzed by the fear of making a fool of themselves, how does embracing communication over perfection actually begin to liberate them? What's the first, tangible step?
That's where the deep insight lies. It's not just about telling yourself, oh, it's okay to make mistakes. It's about recognizing that perfectionism in language learning is actually a trap. It dramatically slows you down. See, when you relentlessly self-correct every single word, your cognitive load is, well, it's immense. It diverts energy from actually acquiring the language. The profound shift here is that by prioritizing just getting your message across, however messy it might be at first, you reroute that brain power. You're essentially giving your brain permission to process and internalize the language naturally. You're much like a child learning to speak rather than constantly editing itself.
Okay, so less editing, more doing.
Exactly. And that immediate reduction in anxiety then creates this positive feedback loop. Less fear means you're willing to speak more. More speaking means faster learning, even with errors. And faster learning builds genuine organic confidence as you successfully connect with others. It's truly a virtuous cycle.
That makes so much sense. It's about taking the enormous pressure off yourself.
Yeah.
And speaking of pressure, the source then moves into another incredibly powerful tool, though often overlooked maybe. Positive self-talk and affirmations. It's easy to say be positive, but for someone who's had years of negative self-talk really deeply ingrained, how does the book suggest you actually rewire that internal monologue? Like, what practical steps does it offer beyond just using encouraging words? How do you truly transform that inner voice?
Yeah, this is foundational because our internal monologue, it directly impacts everything. The author herself shares a really powerful personal insight, her own struggle with negative self-talk when learning Korean, admitting she'd often think, this is too hard, you keep making mistakes. She realized that simply telling yourself to be positive isn't quite enough. It requires active redirection.
Active redirection.
How so? Well, the book suggests specific, encouraging phrases you can adopt, and, crucially, the act of consistently repeating them. This isn't just about feeling good, okay? It's about building mental resilience. When you replace "I can't do this" with "I am learning and improving every day," it fundamentally shifts your learning attitude. That new term, that complex grammar point, it feels less daunting because you've armed yourself with the belief that you are capable of mastering it. It's like building a mental muscle, one that pushes back against the natural frustration of learning something new.
Building a mental muscle. I like that. So once you start to believe you can do it, you also need a realistic pathway forward. The source then emphasizes starting with small, achievable speaking goals. I imagine many of us, myself included, have been guilty of setting those wildly ambitious targets like, I'm going to learn 1,000 vocabulary words in 5 days. Oh, only to crash and burn, right? What's the real danger in setting those kinds of goals? How do small steps counteract that?
Oh, that's a critical point. Overly ambitious goals aren't just unachievable. They're profoundly demotivating. They breed frustration and quickly lead to burnout. It's a fast track to giving up. If we connect this to the bigger picture, realistic goal setting is truly foundational. It's key for sustained motivation and, well, actual progress. The deep dive here is understanding that success breeds success, even in these microdoses. Setting manageable objectives prevents overwhelm because you're consistently achieving what you set out to do. Whether that's, say, today I will introduce myself to one new person in English, or I will accurately use 3 new phrases.
Okay, so tiny wins.
Tiny wins, exactly. This consistent achievement, no matter how small, builds genuine, incremental confidence. And crucially, it allows for much more effective tracking of your progress. It gives you tangible evidence of how far you've come, which then reinforces that positive self-talk we just discussed. It all connects.
And while that tracking shows you how far you've come, how do you get a truly objective sense of how you sound? Because sometimes what we hear in our head isn't what comes out. The source points to an invaluable method, though maybe a bit uncomfortable for some, recording yourself speaking and then really listening back. Why is this such a powerful tool, especially for someone who might, dread hearing their own voice?
It's powerful precisely because it bypasses our subjective perception, our own bias, if you will. When you're speaking, your brain is just so busy constructing sentences and thinking about meaning that you can't fully process your own sound. It's too much at once. So utilizing audio or even video recordings is like holding up a mirror to your voice. Firstly, it significantly increases your awareness, your pronunciation, your intonation, your rhythm, all those elements that directly address that common fear of, will they understand me?
Yeah.
You might realize, oh, wow, I'm consistently mispronouncing that vowel. Or, my sentences sound really flat.
Yeah, I can see that being eye-opening, or ear-opening, I guess.
Right. Secondly, it lets you objectively track your progress over time. Imagine listening to a recording from a month ago and then one from today. Seeing or hearing that tangible improvement is a huge confidence booster. And thirdly, it develops crucial self-correction skills. You become your own best teacher, in a way. Developing a critical ear for your own language use makes you a more independent and effective learner.
Okay, now this next one. This sounds like something you'd almost dismiss at first, because it feels so, awkward. The source insists on practicing speaking in front of a mirror. What did the source reveal about why something that feels so strange could actually be so effective? What's the hidden power there?
Yeah, it might feel unconventional, even a bit silly at first, but it's remarkably effective. And for reasons that go beyond just the language itself. The mirror offers this unique training ground for your entire presentation. You use it to observe your own facial expressions, your body language while you're speaking English. The source even shares this wonderful little anecdote about one of the author's students. Her husband initially thought she looked crazy talking to herself in the mirror, but guess what? Her English improved dramatically.
Okay, so maybe looking a little crazy is worth it.
Maybe. The insight here is that communication isn't just words, right? It's also about nonverbal cues. This practice helps you become more comfortable with how you look and present yourself while speaking. It helps you practice maintaining eye contact, even if it's just with yourself initially, and work on confident posture, all crucial for impactful communication. And yes, absolutely, it allows for focused observation of your mouth movements for better pronunciation, because you can literally see what your mouth is doing. It's about holistic fluency.
Holistic fluency. Interesting. And when you're doing all this practice, speaking more, recording yourself, maybe talking to the mirror, you're inevitably going to hit a snag. You're going to make a mistake. So the sixth strategy is key. View errors as a natural, even essential part of the learning process. But why is embracing mistakes so fundamentally different and maybe more effective than just trying to avoid them?
This is such a core mindset shift. It underpins all successful learning, honestly, not just language. Embracing mistakes, first off, reduces that crippling anxiety we talked about right at the beginning, which, as we know, directly frees up your speech. When you're not terrified of being wrong, you're willing to take more risks, to experiment with new words, new structures.
Okay, less fear, more experimentation.
Exactly. And the deeper insight is that mistakes are not failures, they are data points. Valuable data points. They enable much more effective learning because you're actively analyzing and correcting those errors rather than just avoiding them entirely and therefore never learning what you did wrong in the first place. Ultimately, it fosters a crucial growth mindset, that belief that your abilities can be developed through dedication and hard work. And that mindset is absolutely essential for long-term language learning success and resilience.
Got it. Mistakes as data. That's a good way to frame it. So once you've embraced that growth mindset, you're not afraid of errors anymore. You can then focus on building your practical toolkit. The source highlights the wisdom in preparing and practicing common phrases. You've likely spent tons of time studying grammar and vocabulary from textbooks. Now it's about confidently putting that knowledge into active use. The book specifically recommends using a notebook, writing down new phrases, practicing them alone or with recordings. What's the psychological advantage of having these ready-made phrases sort of in your back pocket?
Oh, the psychological advantage is immense. It's primarily about reducing cognitive load in real-time conversations. Think about it. When you have these common phrases ready and rehearsed, you bypass the need to construct every single sentence from scratch, which can be exhausting and really slow you down in the moment. This builds immense confidence in handling everyday conversations because you can respond more quickly, more naturally in various common situations. It's like having a set of go-to templates.
Like conversational shortcuts.
Kind of, yeah. And it inherently helps expand your vocabulary and improve overall fluency because you're not just memorizing words in isolation. You're actively integrating new, useful chunks of language into your spoken repertoire. You're building muscle memory for conversation.
Muscle memory for conversation. I like that too. From common phrases, the next logical step then seems to be gradually exposing yourself to more challenging speaking scenarios. This isn't about jumping into, I don't know, an advanced political debate right away, right? But slowly strategically pushing your boundaries. How does this gradual exposure technique work to expand one's comfort zone effectively?
It works on the principle of progressive desensitization, really. You start small. You begin with situations that cause minimal anxiety and then slowly, systematically move up the ladder. This systematic approach, progressively engaging in more complex or intimidating English-speaking situations, it builds resilience and adaptability in your language use. You're not just learning English, you're learning to perform in English under varying levels of pressure.
Learning to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting way to put it.
Well, yeah. It systematically expands your comfort zone, making previously intimidating situations feel much more manageable. And it fundamentally improves your overall communication skills as you continually stretch yourself. And ultimately, of course, it prepares you for all those real-life situations where you'll undoubtedly need to use English confidently, from a job interview to just navigating a new city.
Right, the real world.
Mm.
And through all of this, for sustainable progress, you absolutely need to keep your feet on the ground. The ninth strategy circles back, in a way. Set realistic expectations for your entire language learning journey. This ties directly back to those small, achievable goals we discussed earlier, but maybe on a macro level, for the whole journey.
Right.
What's the real cost of unrealistic expectations in the long run?
The real cost: burnout and abandonment. Plain and simple. So many learners give up, not because they lack ability, but because they set these impossible benchmarks for themselves. It's vital to truly understand and accept that language learning is a gradual process, often nonlinear too. There will be plateaus, then breakthroughs. Avoiding unrealistic goals prevents that deep frustration and helps maintain your long-term motivation. Why? Because you're not constantly feeling like a failure. It also fosters a greater appreciation for your progress. You end up celebrating realistic benchmarks, like understanding a complex idiom finally, or holding a 5-minute conversation smoothly, rather than expecting overnight fluency.
It just isn't going to happen.
Exactly. And perhaps most importantly, setting realistic expectations allows you to truly enjoy the learning process itself without all that undue pressure. It makes it sustainable and hopefully enjoyable.
Enjoying the process is absolutely key. Which brings us nicely to the 10th strategy, which directly supports that. Celebrate small victories and progress. This ties right into positive self-talk, the affirmations, creating that reinforcing loop we talked about. What's the psychological impact of actually stopping and acknowledging those minor wins? Does it really make a difference?
Oh, absolutely. A huge difference. Acknowledging and rewarding yourself for improvements, no matter how minor they seem, is incredibly powerful. It taps directly into our brain's reward system. It's like giving yourself a little dopamine hit for your effort. This boosts your motivation naturally and encourages continued practice. It also develops a really positive association with learning and using English, transforming it from maybe a perceived chore into something rewarding. And it's also crucial for building confidence and resilience when you face challenges, because you're constantly reminding yourself of your successes, even the small ones. This counteracts that natural tendency we all have to dwell on mistakes. Did you correctly order a coffee in English today? Celebrate it. Seriously.
I like that. Celebrate the coffee. And finally, to kind of pull all these threads together, the 11th strategy is about reflection. Engage in regular self-reflection on your progress. The source encourages you to literally stop and look over your journey. Consider what's helped, what happened, areas to improve. This isn't just about reviewing, is it? It's more active than that.
Absolutely. It's active adaptation. And this raises an important question for you, the listener. How often do you actually pause to truly reflect on your learning journey? Periodically assessing your strengths, your weaknesses, your overall advancement. It helps you identify areas needing more focus. Or maybe it reveals you need different learning strategies, ones tailored more to your unique style. It provides a clearer understanding of what works best for you individually, not just what a book says, but what works for you. And because all these techniques, from self-talk to setting small goals to embracing errors, are intertwined, Reflection allows for setting more targeted and effective goals for future improvement. It creates this continuous self-aware loop of growth. It's about becoming a strategic learner.
Becoming a strategic learner. Okay, so those are the 11 paths to confident fluency from the source. But sometimes, a single story just brings all these abstract strategies to life. It shows the profound, real-world impact of confidence in action. The author, Teacher Tiffany, she recounts this unforgettable encounter that really renewed her passion for this work. Picture this. She had just bought a brand new Lexus, a sporty four-door, finally replacing her trusty Honda of almost 20 years. A big moment. She was with the dealership representative standing outside, going over the new car's details, feeling pretty good.
Yeah, a nice achievement. And as she describes it, this man on an electric bike approaches. He looked like a delivery person, maybe just passing by. But then he slows down, stops, and surprisingly reverses. Pulls up directly in front of them, looking straight at Teacher Tiffany.
A bit strange, maybe, and he exclaims, "I know you, Teacher Tiffany." Now, she was initially a little wary, maybe thinking it was some kind of casual pickup or something, but then she saw his expression change. It was clear recognition and something more, real intensity there. He then began to passionately explain that her English lessons, her guidance online, had directly helped him come to America, and more importantly, helped him secure his current job. He was, in essence, thanking her for changing his life.
Wow. That moment must have been incredibly profound for her. Just imagine. The author describes feeling this immense warmth and a renewed, almost overwhelming motivation. Motivation to work harder and do more to serve, as she put it, after hearing how her work had genuinely changed this person's life. This specific interaction was so impactful, apparently, she immediately posted about it on her private Facebook page. It just highlights that learning a language isn't only about vocabulary or grammar rules, it's about unlocking opportunities, connecting with people, and fundamentally transforming lives. It's about allowing your full potential to shine through.
So what does this all mean for you, listening right now? This deep dive into conquering English isn't just about language tips and tricks. It's really about the profound, real-world impact of building confidence, step by, sometimes painful, but ultimately rewarding step. It's about connecting with others, achieving your dreams, and building a life where fear doesn't hold you back.
It truly is. The principles we've discussed today, overcoming the fear of mistakes, embracing positive self-talk, setting realistic goals, celebrating progress, reflecting on your journey, they are incredibly effective in language learning. They're all about breaking down these daunting challenges into manageable, empowering steps.
But here's a final thought for you to carry forward from this deep dive. How can you apply these exact same powerful principles to other areas of your life? Areas where you might experience similar apprehension or a desire for growth? Where else could letting go of the need for perfection, talking kindly to yourself, celebrating small steps, and regularly reflecting on your progress lead you to new levels of confidence and achievement? Just like they can with English. What part of your life is waiting for its own deep dive into confident action?